In this video, learn how to use VWAP to buy a pullback in a meme stock. Hi, I'm Mike Bellafiore, co-founder of SME Capital, and we're a proprietary trading firm located in Midtown Manhattan. And I'm also the author of the trading classic, One Good Trade, and the playbook. In this video, our proprietary trading firm shows in step-by-step detail how to use the important indicator, VWAP, to enter a hot stock. Let's get to work on sharing these important trading lessons so you can grow your trading account.
This is an archived playbook trade I took on Clover Health. It is a relative strength pullback to VWAP setup. So for this playbook strategy, the stock selection criteria I look for is the stock is showing relative strength to the overall market, trading at least 3% higher than both.
Hey Brandon, if I can just sort of chime in here. For context, what's your experience level as a trader, and how do we know you?
Yeah, so I've been trading for about 18 months now. I'm going into my sophomore year of college. I'm 19. I am a junior intern. This is my first internship. I applied back in mid-February.
All right, great. Well, congrats on getting a chance to do your first review. Let's hope it goes well.
I'm very excited. Thank you.
Now look, they don't all go well. So good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. So stock selection criteria, the stock is showing relative strength to the overall market, trading at least 3% higher than both SPY and QQQ pre-market. The stock does 20% of its average daily volume within the first 15 minutes of open. And if the trade is taken before then, you can use this as a check in your favor while you're in the trade. The stock does at least a 1 ATR move to the upside before the pullback to VWAP, and it continues to trade on elevated R vol throughout the day. So the trade strategy for the stock selection, I'm looking for a strong opening drive, and after the strong opening drive, the stock pulls back to VWAP. The stock holds VWAP, and the stock stalls out and shows a change in character compared to the pullback to VWAP.
Hey, can we just go back to the stock selection slide? Yeah, so walk me through why you think these are important.
Yeah, so for the first part where the stock is showing relative strength to the overall market, trading at least 3% higher than both SPY and QQQ, looking at my statistics through TraderView, I find that I trade stocks showing relative strength the best, and when a stock is up more than 3% to the overall market, that's a great indicator to me that it's showing relative strength intraday. As far as the volume goes, 20% average volume within the first 15 minutes, it's just showing me that the stock is in play, and if I'm taking the trade before then I can use that as a check in my favor. I can take off risk if it's not doing 20% in 15 minutes, but I really want to see elevated R vol come in early in the day off the open, and at least a 1 ATR move to the upside before the pullback to VWAP. I've been looking back historically at these stocks in this certain setup, and I find that when a stock is showing relative strength, and if it could do an ATR move off the open and pull back and hold VWAP, then it can set up for a 2 or 3 ATR move during the day, or at least it has a better chance.
And are you scanning for this, or are you manually looking for these stocks?
So as of now, I'm manually looking for these stocks, but I'm currently working with a few other interns, and we're creating a scanner for this.
Good, awesome. All right, great.
So for the trade strategy, for the stock selection, after a strong opening drive, the stock pulls back to VWAP, the stock holds VWAP, and then the stock stalls out, shows a change in character compared to the pullback. For volume, I want to see shallow volume on the pullback to VWAP, increasing volume on moves higher, increasing volume on breakouts, and volume starts to coil in consolidation and increases on the breakout. For the tape, a few things I want to see is clear institutional activity around VWAP, so large orders going through on the ask, large size sitting on the bids, tape is heavy on the bids, and any seat below VWAP and bids immediately reclaim. I was talking to Dr. S a bit, and we talked about how if a stock is in play, there could be a lot of institutional activity going around VWAP, so that's something I look for on the tape. If I can spot large block orders going through on the time it sales, or large bids sitting on the level 2, that's something I definitely look for.
And we might explain the reason for that. So let's just say you are an execution trader at an institution. The way that you're judged is how well you buy the order relative to VWAP. So if you had an opportunity to buy closer to VWAP and you passed and ended up buying much higher than that, then you're going to be in a little bit of trouble. And so there can be this fear when the stock is around VWAP that you need to start filling your order. You're not going to take a chance to see if it'll get below it and try and buy it cheaper, because you may have to buy it a lot higher. And so that is one of the things that execution traders at institutions are judged on. How well did they buy the stock relative to VWAP? And that's why that could be an area where you start to see a lot of institutional buying.
Exactly. So other things I like to look for is a hot sector. So look for other stocks in the same sector receiving price target upgrades and strong pre-market movement. The overall market is strong. Short interest is in my favor, and out the money calls coming in via option flow. So just for perspective on this trade, this was a hot sector. This falls within the WSB or meme sector, and these stocks were quite hot this day, and the short interest was in my favor this day as well.
If you want to learn 3 more real-world setups that our traders use, including the simple setup that we teach all of our new traders, and the setup that turned one of our traders into a 7-figure big money earner, check out the free webinar that we're currently running. Just go ahead and click the link that should be appearing now at the top right-hand corner of your screen. That will open up the free registration page in a new window, so don't worry, you won't lose this video. You can also visit tradingworkshop.com to register for this free intensive workshop. You're going to learn more in a couple of hours from this trading workshop than from years of online education.
So the A+ trades will include a very strong opening range breakout, shallow volume on the pullback to VWAP, overall a hot sector, the overall market is strong, the stock is leading the sector, and a high short float.
Yeah, can we just spend a little bit more time talking about the meme stocks, and you talking about how much this is like one of the meme stocks? Is this definitely a meme stock?
I would say so. At first back in January, the stock definitely wasn't running as much as the other ones like AMC and GME. And we saw later into the cycle, we saw more of a rotation into more independent stocks that weren't running as much at first. And CLOV, I'm going to talk about it later on the sentiment indicator. This was definitely a stock that for about a day or two was showing a ton of, a lot of people were talking about it, and it was definitely like the most talked about stock on WSB for about a day or two, which caused a lot of volume to come in.
Yeah, so usually when a sector gets hot, even a meme sector, which isn't really a thing, but usually when we talk about sectors, we talk about biotech stocks or tech stocks or chip stocks or oil stocks. That's a sector. Or marijuana names, or electric vehicles. So those can be sectors that get really hot. And generally, a general principle is when a sector gets hot, there are different tiers of stocks for those sectors. So there's the first tier stocks, the ones that go first, the ones that most people are looking at. So let's just say meme stocks was a category, AMC and GME would be first tier stocks, the head of the snake. Then there'd be second tier stocks. Then there'd be third tier stocks. Then there'd be fourth tier stocks. This happens time and time again. And what happens is the first tier stocks go, and then traders look for stocks like them. And then second tier stocks go. And then because the first tier stocks and the second tier stocks have gone into sector, traders look for third tier stocks. And then they go. And then because first tier stocks, second tier stocks, and third tier stocks have gone in a particular sector, traders look for anything like them, which tends to be fourth tier stocks, which tends to be stocks that aren't really like them at all, by the way, and are the first to get in trouble when the sector starts to roll over, and tend to be the ones most likely to go back to from where they started. So this, you will see, as much as this happened in meme stocks, this can be translatable to any hot sector. This will happen many times during marketplace when money's rotating in and out of hot sectors. And so this general principle is great to take away as a huge learning lesson.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And that makes a lot of sense. And with that being said, this was definitely either like a tier 3 or tier 4 like stock in the sector. It definitely wasn't like a 1 or 2. A very strong opening range breakout, shallow volume on the pullback to VWAP, hot sector, high short float leading the sector, and market is strong. So potential reasons to sell: change of character within the stock, volume is against me, drying up with price action stalling out, breaks level of consolidation or pullback, news against me on the stock or the market, stop is hit. And one other that I would like to add is I use the 9 EMA on the 2-minute chart as a trailing stop when my trade is moving in my favor.
Yeah, and just suggestion for you, as you get more experience, defining for you what change of character within a stock means is something to be really thinking about. And the more specific you can be, it's going to be different for different traders, but you want to be able to, in your head, very, very succinctly, the 3 or 4 change of characters within a stock that you can identify that are important to you are, and be specific with that, as opposed to, change of character within a stock can mean a lot of different things and can confuse you in real time, but unable to push above a high and then make a lower high, that's something that's specific, or unable to push above a price for the first time on elevated volume into the move. That's a specific change of character within the stock that can mean something to you. So work on that. Work on the subset of that list.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. So yeah, as of now, and I can definitely specify that right now, I'm looking for a change of character. More so in price action. It could be like the first lower high made after a momentum move to the upside, and a lot of time I'll look for a change of character in the tape. Perhaps the tape slowing down after a momentum move, so that's definitely something that I'll specify. So the trading plan, so if a stock is showing relative strength by fitting the stock selection criteria and pulls back to VWAP after a strong opening drive, this is the strategy to trade. I'm looking for the stock to pull back to VWAP, show a change in character after the pullback, and I'm waiting for some sort of change of character to reveal itself at VWAP to enter off. This can be a change in character on the tape, price action, or volume. And lastly, the trade must have a favorable risk to reward setup that makes sense to me. So big picture, on this day, the SPY opened slightly green. It ended up flushing small off the open, consolidated for a few minutes, and then once it dropped below VWAP, it flushed, consolidated for about 45 minutes below VWAP, rejecting VWAP at the highs, and then it flushed down to about 12:30, in which buyers started stepping in, and then it rallied above VWAP and then started consolidating above VWAP for the rest of the day. So technical analysis on the daily chart for CLOV. You can see on this day, it's just clear, it really popped. This was a day that it was opening up around all-time highs and then off the open and made all-time highs. And at this point, when I took the screenshot, it was up 76% on the day. So strong gap up, it held the gap up, and had a strong opening drive and trended early in the morning. So here's the 30-minute technicals, just zoomed in a bit more, but you could basically see the same thing. So on this one, you can see there was a bit of day one action, strong trend day on day one, but nothing really compared to day two here, where it gapped up in the morning pre-market, strong opening drive off the open, squeezed up to about 25, in which it rejected, pulled back a bit, and then found some support, in which it started trading higher off in the afternoon session. And this is the intraday technical analysis I had. So something that I would like to point out about this is the pre-market movement and this consolidation it had for about an hour pre-market. This was actually a stock that I had on my watch list at first going into the open, but it wasn't my main watch just because of how much volume I knew it was doing and how overcrowded it was. I realized I don't trade those stocks the best, but about 15 to 20 minutes before the open, I noticed the consolidation range it was forming pre-market, and it got me really interested in it because I really trade consolidation ranges pretty well, and I can gauge my risk on them well. So this consolidation range pre-market made it very attractive to me. Then it had a big move off the open. It may not look big, but this was about like a 15 to 20% move off the open. pulled back to VWAP, held VWAP, made another move up, consolidated below 18. And once it broke 18, it really just squeezed to 25, in which it put in the front side move and then started the backside move.
I like you noticing that tight consolidation in the pre-market. That's actually a really good one. That's a really good visual example of tight consolidation. What's happening there is people are shorting a bunch, thinking this is up too much, and people are buying a much, thinking the people that are shorting are going to get squeezed and that this has got more to run. They fight. There's a winner. If it gets above that resistance area in the pre-market, the sellers are going to cover, new buyers are going to come in, and the stock is going to push higher. So that sideways action, that flagging action, that consolidation action with time, over time, and how tight it is a good visual pattern. You know, you're not just getting a lot of time where the stock is bumping up against resistance and pulling into support. You're getting a tightness of that resistance and support. And when you combine that with a stock really in play, you're potentially going to get a big move. And then you do get that right on the open as well, to a lesser degree. But those are good patterns to be looking for as for momentum trading. And you're right to use that word coil. That is creating a coiling effect. Those shorts are going to have to cover. The people that aren't yet long are going to want to get in. The people that are long already are going to want to buy more. The momentum players with some big money are going to want to keep driving this higher. The technical traders who buy because the stock is going higher are going to buy higher. And so that's what's going on under the hood of this price action.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I would also like to note that after this strong opening range breakout on this pullback to VWAP, it also comes in sync with this consolidation high that it pulled back to. So it just made a lot of sense, and it was really easy for me to recognize this pattern and this hold of this consolidation high in VWAP off the open. So intraday fundamentals. So CLOV was the most talked about stock on WSB today, participating heavily in the WSB or meme stock squeeze. Coming into the day, CLOV was gapping up over 40% pre-market, showing the most strength relative to the meme sector, if you want to call it that, with a 36.09% short float and being the number one talked about stock on WSB. It is clear that the intention of retail traders is to make this the next stock to squeeze. Trading right below all-time highs, if CLOV broke 1745, there would be no overhead resistance, and there may very well be a lot of short covering. The higher time frame technicals played a large part in my bullish thesis. So some statistics for the stock: average volume is 85.4 million. RVol on the day was 30.12 times. ATR made a 9 times ATR move. Short float was 36%. Shares float is 112 million, and there is no information on the institutional ownership.
Two things. One from Yanni with his contribution, and two from the past. So good to be checking to see what are the most talked about stocks on WSB and other places that measure sentiment. So good to be checking to see what the overall sentiment is in the stock, meaning how positive are people about this stock? How much are they talking about this stock? And starting to play around with that data. There's no one right way to use the data, but you do need to use the data. And I'm not going to mandate to you how to use the data because I don't think that's particularly helpful in terms of teaching. But what I will say to you is you need to learn how to use the data, and you need to be incorporating into this trade. And then the second thing, if you just go back a slide, so you may want to start to get into the habit of checking to see what the call options are doing as you're watching this coiling effect. Is there a ton of call buying at much higher prices? And Yanni is challenging you to be thinking about that. There's certainly edge to be looking at the ratio of call buying to put buying. There's certainly some edge in a pattern like this to be noticing that there's a lot of call options going on above where the stock is trading. And so, we've talked a bit about in the past about gamma squeezes. You can go take a look at our YouTube page to learn a little bit more about that. I think that's probably a little bit above your pay grade as a junior intern, but there's a good introduction to that on our YouTube channel recently that one of the guys put together. So good for you to be thinking about this. Look, the way you're putting this trade together is terrific. You're doing so many things right. My suggestions are, on the margins, how you can make this a little bit better. On the margins, how you can get a little bit more confidence in this trade. On the margins, how you can put a little bit more risk on this trade. On the margins, when you become a super great trader, how you express the trade better. I'm not making these comments suggesting that what you're doing right now wouldn't work in of itself. It would. I'm making these comments as a supplement for you to think about as you get more experienced.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, that sounds great, and thank you, Yanni, for that. Yeah, definitely looking at call options and especially paying attention to the out the money ones that come in, because without the money call options that come in, that can definitely trigger a gamma squeeze if there are a ton of them coming in at large rates. So thank you. And as far as the data does go with this, I was sort of just looking at, and you'll see in a few slides from now, how much it was talked about relative to the short float. It was clear that these retail traders were trying to pump this up, and with the short float, I sort of just assumed that it can definitely cause a squeeze. This is the WSB ticker sentiment. So Swaggy stocks, this is something I use to gauge the sentiment, and you can see CLOV on the far left, by far the most commented and talked about positive sentiment, just commented stock in general on this page on the day, and it was by a far shot as well. It wasn't really close. Something else I do want to point out as well is this day, it was clear that there was more so of a rotation into these perhaps tier 2 and tier 3 sector rotations. As you can see, the top 3 are CLOV, BB, and CLNE, compared to GME and AMC, which were down a bit more. So that rotation that we were talking about earlier definitely came into effect this day.
Yeah, so Swaggy Stocks is a good third-party website to be checking into. Like how you're pointing that out. And then as some of you dive a little bit deeper into using data, through our automated division, there is data on sentiment. There's sentiment data that you guys can take a look at and play around with that is even more sophisticated. So I like you starting here. I like you looking at this for where you guys are at now, and just sort of know that if you wanted to get more into this, there are data sets that you can get your hands on, and you can start to back test to give yourself a little bit more edge in these.
That sounds great. Yeah, for sure. And that's definitely something that I would like to look more into in the near future. So this is the trade management on the trade. So I do want to note that VWAP was coming in right below my entry, as you saw in the intraday chart, but my entry was, I got long once CLOV seeped below VWAP, reclaimed, offers lifted 1650, and the tape started speeding up to the upside. My risk on this trade was 16. So if offers dropped below 16, I was getting flat. That was my hard stop on the trade. So exit, took off size once spread started getting wider near 18. Asks were heavy, and when asks did lift 18, they were not able to hold above. And then this was a clear level of intraday resistance that was coming in, which led to this consolidation. Added size, there were large size on the bids at 17. Large block orders were being done on the ask at 1735 and 1736. I can point this out when we look at the tape, but at this point, because I did, it may not look like a big move, but this was about a 10 to 15% move, and I did exit a bit more than I wanted to, looking back on the trade. So I was looking for an area to add more size, and then when we pulled back to 17, it was clear that buyers were stepping in, whether it was shorts covering or more people buying, and there were large block orders being done on the time of sales around 1735 and 36. So I added more size there. We started to consolidate a bit. So this part is more important. this is actually something that I talk about with my senior intern, and it's the see it moment during a trade. And the see it moment for this trade is when bids got above 18 with speed and skipping numbers to the upside on the tape with heavy volume coming in. And that's when I added more size on this trade. That's when I felt like I was in the driver's seat on this trade. It was a clear change in character throughout this consolidation because bids were never really getting above 18, and if they did, it was just for a few seconds. This time we had volume coming in and bids were clearly holding above 18. So exit, I scaled out into strength. Offers were not being able to hold above whole numbers, and weakness coming in at 20 right here. And then I got flat into buying exhaustion and offers dropping 23. That's where I got flat. So I do have a few areas I can show. So this is going to be my entry. My entry comes in at 943.15. So as you can see right here, stock is pulling back. At this point I'm watching the tape and it's stalling out a bit. I'm just not seeing any, clear confirmation that it's holding yet. And now that it's stalling in the mid 40s, it did seep below VWAP a bit and immediately reclaimed, so that's something that I'm keeping in mind. And it's just trading at the low 16s. Starting to come up a little bit. And then right here, we're starting to see a little bit more speed on the tape to the upside, and now there are a lot of these block orders being done on the asks, telling us that these buyers are initiating the transaction, and that's a bit of a change of character than I saw. So this is where I entered, and now we have a lot more of these orders going through on the ask, 12,000 shares, and that's something that I saw, changing this candle from red to green. And at this whole time, my stop was below 16. And I make my last entry in 1 second, and right here is my last entry. And we get a bit of speed on the tape. If I skip forward a little bit. It was showing a little bit of weakness at first when I was rejecting the 9 EMA. Then it was coming up, and then if we skip to about, like 440 here, we started moving higher, and then we came into this level of 1745, which acted as a bit of local support. And then once we got here, I took off about 10 to 15% of the size I had on, and this was just to cover my risk to the downside so the trade wouldn't go against me. There was a lot of size at 50 that just got decremented with a lot of orders going through on the ask. And then if we skip forward a bit, so when there was weakness coming in, I made another sale up at 1008 over here, so at 951.10. And then I'm just going to go to the area where I added size on. So on this pullback right here to 17, there were buyers definitely stepping in, and this was a pullback. And on this ad alone, I was risking 17 on this ad, and I ended up getting filled around 17.35, I believe. So as you can see, there are a lot of block orders now again going through on the ask. So 11,000 shares, 5,000, 5,000, 2,000. And I was just seeing a lot more than shares being sold on the bid. And again, more coming in, and this is where I added. If we skip forward a bit, we did end up pushing up, and then the stock approached this upper edge of this consolidation around 18. So then if we skip to the see it moment and we're at its size above 18, it's coming in more around here. Okay. So this is the tight range of consolidation that we were talking about. And now the stock was approaching the upper end at 18. And then this was the pullback over here that I added on. So you can see there's a lot of size at 18 right there, and it's just rejecting.
It's gotten above 18, it just hasn't held above 18. It's wicked above 18, it just hasn't held above 18.
Testing 17 again, 18, we broke above 18 with speed, and then the bids got above 18, and that's where I added. I ended up actually taking it off really quick because asks quickly dropped below 18, and then I added it back again. And then we really just moved higher after that.
So two things. So as that stock is getting towards 18, you want to ask yourself, what do I need to see as it's getting closer to 18 that's going to make it this time actually get through 18? As you can see, I mean, it's wicked above 18, but it hasn't really been able to sustain above it. So what do I need to see below that 18 resistance level that's going to tip our hands that it's actually going to be able to get up there? And so what tends to happen is that the buyers slowly creep up closer to 18. And so, hey, maybe you didn't notice prior to a certain point that 90 cents had a stubborn buyer, and then now maybe you do. You want to start to be sitting there saying, what do I want to see before we get above 18 that's going to give me evidence it's going to bust out above 18? And the other thing you want to be asking yourself is, what do I need to see above 18 that's going to confirm for me that this is more likely to actually be real and have that move above 18? Is it price? Has it not gotten to a certain price when it's ticked above 18? Is it I want to see it hold above 18? Is it I want to see it hold above 18 and then do so for a period of time? But you want to start in your head, develop the scenarios that are going to give you that evidence that this is more likely to go up. It doesn't have to be that it's definitely going to go up, but you do have to start concocting and game planning in your head. This is what I want to see. This is what I want to see before 18. Okay, wow, I'm seeing that. I didn't see that before. Wow, it's now more likely to bust through 18. Look at that. And then, oh, what do I want to see above 18? Okay, I'm seeing that. Now I'm starting to see that. Okay, that is one of the things I game planned. Okay, now I need to have a little bit more risk on. And so those are two things to be thinking about.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I definitely need to work on, what I can see below 18. That can signify that this can really go once it gets above. As far as over 18, I noticed that on these wicks above, bids weren't holding above 18 for more than 5 to 10 seconds. They would immediately drop. And after I saw that the bids were holding and it was speeding up, the bids were skipping, and it was holding for 15 to 20 seconds, that was definitely a change of character to me in my eyes. So if we just go to my exits, so I can go over. So over here, once we broke above and we were getting to high of day, I ended up taking off a little bit of size just to take off some risk. And really, it was showing a little bit of weakness at first, and then it broke through. And then also something else that I want to point out throughout this trade is that I noticed really above 18, even though it was going, asks were super stacked at really every psychological level you can get to, but it was breaking through. So that's something that I definitely noted. And I thought even though there were a lot of sellers here, the buyers were just taking them out, or either the offers were lifting or they were getting decremented. Over here at this point, we ended up going all the way up to 20. And I was talking to a few traders while I was in this trade, and we were discussing it, and we really thought that, like 20 would be like the best case scenario. Like if it got to 20, I wouldn't imagine it would, but if it did, then I thought, that was really as high as this can go. So once weakness came in around 20, I took off another 10% or so. And at this point, I was really just scaling out 10% when I saw weakness. And then my final exit was coming in around 48. So at this point, this is something I want to point out before I go to my exit, is that we got this consolidation around 20. And then this is an area that I definitely could have done better in this trade. I could have definitely added size above 20. I feel like there was this, tight consolidation. You can see it on the 1 minute chart down here. And then once we broke above 2030, we really started going, and that could have been an area where I could have added more size on, risking below 20, which led to this very large move up. I still had size on at this point, and then took the last bit of size off, coming in once these offers over here, after this parabolic move up, after these offers drop below 23. So we go for just a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I do think these stocks tend to end with a parabolic move, so you want to.
Yeah, and I ended up getting flat there.
You basically, these irrational moves to the upside tend to end with irrational, bigger moves to the upside than anybody had thought. So that the idea of saving something, at least for a really steep move to the upside, makes some sense for a reason to sell.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I did. It was about 10 to 15% of the size I had left, so it wasn't a lot, and it's something I can work up, maybe leaving about 20% size left, and then I ended up getting flat on that break below, and then it ended up running another $1 or $2, about to 25. So this is something that I want to point out. So I took 4 other trades on CLOV on this day. So before the playbook trade, I tried it. I actually tried it 3 times. Taking it long off 17 in this consolidation period before it dropped, and then it immediately reclaimed where it got long. All 3 didn't go anywhere, and these were just small winners. So these were more move to move trades, and I was getting in at the bottom of this consolidation, and I wanted to see the breakout. It just never happened, so I got out of these for small wins and nearly break even. And then after the playbook trade, I opened 2 more trades on CLOV, taking it long, once at VWAP and once at low of day. The first trade off VWAP I'm okay with, but the second one is outside of my playbook. I shouldn't have tried catching the bottom on a clear downtrend. Both of these trades were about a 0.7 R loss. So this trade over here, I could have realized that this move to VWAP was a bit violent and steep, and this can be something I can work around in my playbook on these pullbacks to VWAP. They need to be more gradual moves than flushes down to VWAP like this one was. And that's definitely something I can look at and add. And then this trade, I just think this was a poor trade and probably shouldn't have tried off low of day, and after this I was done.
Really good exercise for you guys is not to be thinking about these trades based on your P&L. So you don't want to be thinking about how much money you're up or how much money you could have made. In your review, you want to go back and say, how well did I execute on this trade? So how closely did I get it to the right price when I wanted to get long? How closely did I get it to the right price when I wanted to sell? And you want to go look at these executions and judge yourself very much on that. That's going to make you a better trader, as opposed to lamenting you should have made more money. I don't know what that means. I should have made more money. The way that you become a serious big trader is being real diligent here on this page about your executions. And look, you guys are a little bit newer, so it's going to be a little bit harder for you to do. But this is where you want feedback the most. And this is where you want to spend a lot of your time reviewing. Don't be glossing over this. Getting these executions right makes a big deal. I was actually talking to Seth about this. We have this signal that we developed internally that we combined with the way Seth expresses a trade with Edge. And the signal of itself does fine. The combination with the expression of trade, it does so much better. And then there was a senior trader screening above the combining of these that made it even better. And so people often talk about edge is just their setup. You know, so you've done a nice job laying out a playbook trade, which is a setup that has variables. There's a lot of edge, and what needs to be a big part of your playbook as well is your edge in execution, your edge in expression of trade. And so we'll talk as you guys get a little more experience. We'll talk some more about that. All right, let's get to that last slide.
So this was the last slide. So the trade review. So overall, I would say this was in a setup. The setup fit all my criteria and shows relative strength. The pullback to VWAP was clean and easy for me to gauge. The only thing that I did not like was how much volume was being done and how overcrowded CLOV was. Statistically, stocks that trade on 2 to 15 million volume intraday, I have the most success with. CLOV traded over 700 million volume today, which is much higher than I'm used to. It felt overcrowded, which made it a bit harder for me to read the tape. So execution, I'm very happy with my entries. Price I was risking, areas I added size and exit selectivity. I'm quite happy with my sizing, which is something that I've been actively working on. Before taking this trade, I categorized it as a B trade, A plus setup, B trade due to the stock's fundamentals, more specifically the volatility and how much volume was being done. On B trades, I look to risk 15 to 20% of my daily stop, and I risked 15% on this trade, which I'm very happy about. Adding size, I'm happy with how I added size on the retest of 17 and then the break above of 18. But there was a great opportunity to add size on the break above 20, which I didn't take advantage of. I'm a bit disappointed in that and will be rewatching the tape to see how I could have taken advantage of that break of 20. And then overview, overall, very happy with my trading idea and execution. This is a trade that I'll look to replicate in the future, both with the trading idea and execution wise.
Hey, go ahead and click our subscribe button so you don't miss any of the videos they're producing for you in the trading community. And please take the time to add your feedback in the comment section for what videos you'd like for us to produce next and what you found helpful from this video. From all of us at S&B, train and trade well.